Alright, so for today's episode, I'm going to be talking about mule deer in Nebraska. Most of this is going to focus on the over-the-counter rifle options, but I will cover the additional weapons and some of the draw stuff in some detail as well. So August 2nd is the day that all of these over-the-counter rifle mule deer tags go on sale, and they are capped by units, so these do sell out, but I will go more in depth on that as we pick through some of this information here. So the first thing I wanted to look at was their actual unit structure. So the units I'm covering here are in the western part of Nebraska, and these are the main units that you would end up finding mule deer. Some of them don't have a lot of mule deer at all, but if you go to the, say, Kiapaha, if you go to the far western portion, you can run into decent numbers of mule deer there. Well, most of these are private land. There's not a whole lot of public land in Nebraska, so I would look at this as if someone was wanting to buy a tag and then go with an outfitter or have some kind of lease setup. It is kind of difficult at times to do public land stuff in Nebraska. But I created this chart of the comparison between whitetail deer bucks and mule deer buck harvest for each unit. The caveat with this is the 2019 one that I created. They did not publish this information yet for 2019, so I only have the rifle harvest stuff. So the numbers that you're seeing here, they're down so much from 18 because this is only rifle season, whereas this includes archery, muzzleloader, and some of the doe seasons. But this would enable someone to look at this and kind of see trends in the overall harvest. If you were to go back as far as 2014 and 2015, I think the Pine Ridge switches to actually being more of a mule deer dominant harvest. But if you look at this over time, you can kind of see how it is shifted in favor of whitetails. But there's the four main units now that are predominantly mule deer harvest, being Plains, Sandhills, Upper Platte, and Frenchman. Frenchman actually has the highest mule deer harvest out of any of these units in Nebraska. The overall population stuff is contained here, but the caveat with that is that Nebraska doesn't do a population estimate that's based on surveys. It's based entirely on a harvest metric and an algorithm that they kind of coordinate that with. So they don't have a whole lot of confidence in their population estimates. We know that it floats somewhere around 100,000 for mule deer statewide. A more reliable indicator of the overall herd health and condition would be the actual harvest metrics. So we know that in 2020 it was down relatively notably from 2019. And this is the overall buck harvest in 2020, just over 9,000, whereas previously we had seen it being above 10,000 every year for the last few years. Also noteworthy is that in 2020, the information I do have says that the rifle harvest was down 17% versus 2019 for mule deer. The rifle harvest totaled 5,990, whereas in 2019 it was 7,201. Also, the southwest zone, which includes Frenchman, that main mule deer harvest zone, the overall harvest there was down 10%. Alright, so moving forward, I'm just going to briefly go over what it looks like for 2021. So these are the actual unit quotas for mule deer in these zones. So Platte, Frenchman, Buffalo, and Republican are in what they call the mule deer conservation area, and these are the total number of tags that are good for rifle mule deer and actually muzzleloader mule deer there as well. The caveat with that is 15% of these tags go to non-residents for Platte, and for Frenchman it's only 8%. These are done by drawing, and that drawing is actually passed already. It happens in, I think it might be June, or it could be July. I think it is a June drawing though. But as far as these other ones go, the Pine Ridge is another one to watch because last year, 2019, that sold out August 4th. Or 2020, that sold out August 4th. These are all of the 2020 sellout dates. Republican is kind of difficult. Yes, it sold out early, but there's very few mule deer in that zone, and I'm guessing they're all on the kind of the western edge. So I'm guessing the private landowners that know they have mule deer just bought up those 75 tags kind of when they went on sale. But Pine Ridge, I would look at that selling out again within the first 1 to 2 days that these go on sale. Once again, that is August 2nd for this year. As far as the rest of it goes, you do have, historically at least, you do have some amount of time that you can wait before you look at buying the tags. But like I said previously, Nebraska can be pretty hard to hunt just the public land. There's not a whole lot of it, so most of this is going to be geared towards towards getting a lease or going with some kind of outfitter. The Pine Ridge sells out so quickly, probably because there is a decent amount of public land there, and a lot of people come from out of state to hunt that. What I would say, though, is if someone wanted to do public land in Nebraska, instead of buying one of these $200+ buck tags the first year and then coming out during November firearm, I would instead, especially for the Pine Ridge, I would buy the doe tags for whitetails in the Pine Ridge, and I would just come out during that regular rifle season. Even if you only have 2-3 days to do it, that's probably enough time to harvest a doe, but you'd get a good idea of what the pressure is like during that November firearm season on the public land. I've actually never hunted November firearm on the public land in Nebraska. I've only hunted the muzzleloader seasons. But instead of dropping the money and coming out for, say, a week during that November firearm season, I would highly recommend someone, if they're coming to Nebraska for their first time, to instead buy the doe tag and then come out during that November firearm season. The doe tags are cheap. You get 2 whitetail doe tags it runs about $90 with the habitat stamps and all that. But you can hunt that same season, much less expensive. And if you don't have as much time to spend on it, you don't feel as bad because you haven't earned as much money on the hunt. So that's kind of my recommendation for Nebraska. In addition to these rifle quotas, though, there is a statewide archery tag that's unlimited and over-the-counter. That's good for all of these zones, including the mule deer conservation areas. And that is open to non-residents as well. Additionally, there is a statewide muzzleloader tag that's unlimited. The difference is that it is not open to the mule deer conservation area, so you can't hunt Platte, Frenchman, Buffalo, or Republican on that unlimited muzzleloader tag. Those tags run the same price as the regular rifle tag, just over $200. But overall, this is an overview of Nebraska. It is possible to get it done on public land out here, but I would highly recommend looking into private land opportunities and stuff with outfitters if that is the way you want to go. But this should hopefully get you guys a good idea of at least what the structure is like in Nebraska and how you can go about buying these tags. Thanks for tuning in.